So Mr. Paulo Banchero came out and said over the weekend that the Magic should be in the same conversations as the Boston Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Philadelphia 76ers. If you missed the Magic last year, they're a rising team in the Eastern Conference. There is no doubt about that. Paulo Banchero got better. You saw his assist numbers go up to almost 6 assists a game. Franz Wagner, he was solid. I know he wasn't always that good in the playoffs, but he's a really good second option. I'm glad Orlando extended him. And the return of Jonathan Isaac had a huge impact on their defense. They were one of the best defensive teams out there. They could lock you down. I remember watching, it was game 4 of the Cavs versus Magic, and the Cavs were in that game, and all of a sudden the Magic just pulled away and they locked Cleveland down. They had no shot. What I liked about what the Magic did last year in the playoffs is they defended their home court, because that's just going to build momentum for the future with this squad. I think one of the most important things that the Magic need to do is continue to build around Franz, Paulo Banchero, and Jalen Suggs. We saw a leap from Jalen Suggs last year where his three-point percentage went up. I think it was like 39%. I might be wrong about the numbers, but his three-point shooting got a lot better. Paulo is at around 35%. Franz can improve there as well. But I expect all three of those guys to really take another leap this season. Now, Paulo had some interesting things to say on First Take. He said that we feel like we're right there. We're right there with all those teams. I remember last year we started off as a top 3, top 2 seed, and everybody thought it was a fluke. Remember, they started 15-5. They were really good before the injuries happened. Everybody thought we were going to be a play-in team and drop out of the top of the East. But we finished strong and got the 5th seed and had a chance to really grab this 2 seed at the end of the season because they were right there for that 2nd seed. So he's right on the money there. We were right there last year, and we got better this year. Like I said, I got better. All of us got better. We got some new pieces that's going to help a lot. We're trying to make some noise. We should easily be a top 4, top 3 team and have a chance to win the East. When looking at what Paulo Banchero had to say, I have no issue whatsoever. I love the confidence he has for the Magic, and they should feel good about themselves because if you look at this team and what they've done this offseason, they added Caldwell Pope, who has championship experience. He's played with LeBron James. He's played with Nikola Jokic. He can shoot the threes. He's going to be able to space the floor for the Magic. Also, he's a veteran presence and a solid locker room guy. You don't hear any complaints about Caldwell Pope getting along with his teammates. You look at the guy they drafted in Tristan Del Salva. He's a 6'8" forward who can spread the floor, and apparently he has really good high IQ. So for the Magic, they're adding the right pieces. Also, you have Corey Joseph off the bench to help out the depth of the point guard position and give a guy like Anthony Black some mentorship. One of the things I want to see from the Magic this season is to give more minutes to Anthony Black. Give him a bigger role. I know he played almost 17 minutes a game last year coming off the bench, but I think they need to implement him into this rotation. He's 6'7". You drafted him, I believe, was 7th in the draft, and I think he's got a lot of upside. So the Magic have to figure out their point guard position. That's their only really true weakness outside the center. You could argue they might not have enough rim protection outside of Carter and Wagner. But at the same time, I think if you can develop Anthony Black and make him a really solid point guard and don't put all the pressure on Franz and Banchero to play make so they can focus more on scoring and get into the rim with their athleticism, that's going to open up the offense even more. When you're looking at the Eastern Conference, outside of the Boston Celtics, I think there's question marks. With the New York Knicks, yes, you added Mikal Bridges. That's a great move. But at the same time, they lost Isaiah Hartenstein. That's going to be a huge loss, especially in the playoffs when you need depth at the big man position. And will Mitchell Robinson stay healthy? That's a big question mark. And when you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the biggest weaknesses they have is their defense. The point of attack defense is terrible. I know they added Gary Trent Jr. Maybe he'll be motivated by his minimum contract. You look at Taurean Prince. He played a lot of minutes under Darvin Ham, and now he's one of the assistant coaches next to Doc Rivers. But at the same time, I still think this is an old roster, and they rely so much on Giannis and Lillard to carry their offense. And yes, Middleton is really good. Lopez is solid. But at the same time, they're very old. And I think at this point, they need to move on from both of them to get younger and just upgrade those positions. I think if you find a center who's more athletic, who can guard 1 through 5, or maybe just be able to hold his own when there's a pick and roll going on, that's beneficial for the Bucks because Giannis doesn't have to come out because he's not a good perimeter defender. He's great in the post for defense, but not as a perimeter defender. And then on top of that, Middleton is just not reliable. He gets hurt or just something going on. I think the Bucks should move off of them, in my opinion. And then when you're looking at the 76ers, sure, they've got a great coach in Nick Nurse. Joel Embiid would have won MVP if he stayed healthy. But again, it's either his health or when it comes to showing up in the bright lights, he does shrink at times. Those are just facts. But Paul George is here to help him, but he's also had his struggles in the playoffs. And then Maxey as well. I think he's very reliable as a fourth quarter closer. I think they need to play through Maxey. But I have a hard time trusting the Sixers when I need them to deliver the goods. So when the Magic are looking at the competition, outside of Boston, they could sneak their way to the second seed, possibly the top seed. And the reason why I say that, because we've seen young teams jump from 8 seeds to a number 1 seed in the Western Conference or the Eastern Conference. We just saw this with the Thunder last year. They were a play-in team the year before. And what happened? They had one of the best records and became the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. We saw this version of Kevin Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. What happened? They were the 8th seed. They played the Lakers, lost in 6 games. Come back the next year, make the Western Conference Finals. After that, make the NBA Finals. Also, the Golden State Warriors. They had a tough second-round knockout against the Spurs. A year later, they play the Clippers. They lose in a tough 7-game series. And what happens after that? They win the NBA championship. So it's not outlandish for Banchero to say, you know what? We should be in the same conversation as the Bucks, as the Sixers, as the Knicks, and the Celtics, because we have seen a young roster with a ton of potential take that next leap into being a number 1 contender. We are literally seeing this play out with the Thunder. What happened is obviously they picked up Alex Caruso, they picked up Isaiah Hartenstein. Now the Thunder, in my opinion, should make the NBA Finals. The only team that's going to stop them is the Dallas Mavericks. So let's just play 3 scenarios out for the Orlando Magic. Let's just say they finish 6th in the East because of just their experience and they're not ready to take that next step yet. That's perfectly okay. We saw this with the Boston Celtics. People forget after the COVID season, they lost Hayward, they lost Kemba Walker, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum really for the first time had to be the leaders in that locker room. And they struggled and they finished as a 7th seed. And what happened after that? They still struggled until January, and they finally turned it around. It took them about 18 months to start playing good basketball again. That was a hard time to watch as a Celtics fan. So, Magic fans, if they go through growing pains this year, don't give up. Don't freak out. Just realize that sometimes as a young team, you go through the ups and downs of being in the NBA. And when teams have a target on their back and are not used to that level of competitiveness, because people are going to pay attention to the Magic this year, but they're going to really lock in for the Magic this upcoming season. So Orlando needs to be ready for that type of force coming at them. Another scenario is they finish as the 4th seed, they get to the first round of the playoffs, and they get swept. And that can be tough to swallow, but that could happen because they're still a young basketball team. And of course, the final scenario is they become the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I would not be shocked if we do see that type of leap. Now, as a Celtics fan, I do expect us to be the 1st seed, but I am definitely keep my eyes on the Magic as a dark horse potential contender. I don't know if that's going to happen right now, but we have seen evidence of this in the past where young teams come out of nowhere and they take the league by storm. We just saw them last year as a team who was 15-5. So they know what it takes to start off hot. And I wouldn't be surprised if Orlando starts the same way this year because they have the roster. I think one of the things that Orlando needs to figure out, again, is their point guard situation. I love Cole Anthony. I love Jalen Suggs. But to have a natural playmaker out there, I think Anthony Black needs to be developed in that type of player. And if the Magic can do that, because he's 6'7", he's athletic, that is only going to elevate this roster. Also, remember that every piece on this roster might not be together for the future. Think about the Boston Celtics when they had Marcus Smart, Robert Williams III, next to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. When they made the NBA Finals with that team, they made an Eastern Conference Finals run a year later. What happened that offseason? They moved on from Robert Williams III. They moved on from Marcus Smart. They brought in Holiday and Porzingis, and that changed everything for the Celtics. So let's just say the Magic make a deep playoff run. Let's just say they make the Eastern Conference Finals, they lose to the Celtics. They come back a year later, they make the NBA Finals, but they don't win it all. Now you're looking at that roster going, okay, who doesn't fit next to Suggs, Paulo, and Franz? That has to be the question. And I like the fact that Orlando is trying to compete now because they're not just sitting back going, okay, we have this cap space and we're going to do nothing. No, they went out and got a veteran player in KCP. They went out and signed Corey Joseph. So for Orlando, it's good to see this, and you're showing your fans that, hey, we're trying to get better and we're trying to get into those conversations. So I love where the Magic are heading. I would not be surprised if Paulo Banchero becomes a top 5 player in the NBA someday. Just wouldn't shock me at all because he's so gifted and can score at will. And when you can get to the line at will and you have that type of athleticism, Paulo is only going to get better. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'd love to hear thoughts about the upside of the Orlando Magic. Do you think they're going to be contenders this year, or do you think it's a year too soon? Love to hear thoughts on that. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.